Hey YouTube, welcome back. I've had a few questions in the comments about the feeder I use to feed my bees, and people saying, what do you feed your bees? What is that white bucket you're putting in there? How does it work? So I'm just going to do a short video to show you what I use. I researched a lot of different kinds of feeders before I went with this one. There's a few different kinds. There's sort of entrance feeders, which work on the similar kind of principle as this one, which I'll talk about in a second. So entrance feeders go in the front of the hive. Then they have these, you can have an external feeder, which is just like a trough of sugar syrup, which is kind of a bad idea because it attracts other animals and other bees from other hives and things. There's also an internal top feeder, which is kind of like again, like a trough of syrup with things that float in it so the bees can land on it, but pretty much everyone says that you're just going to get drowning bees if you have open syrup because they don't know how to swim and they fall in and they get stuck, and it's so I went with this feeder, which is a bucket feeder or a pail feeder. This goes inside the hive on top of the brood box, and it goes upside down. I'll show you how it works. It's basically just a pail, just a bucket. The magic is the lid, which is just a plastic lid, goes on the bucket, but it's got this cutout here with a screen inserted into the lid. So that's all it is. So you fill this up with fluid, put the lid on, and if it's full and you turn it upside down, the vacuum seal, there's a vacuum forms inside there, and it holds the fluid in so it doesn't come shooting out of that hole. It's kind of like this. So you can pick up water and actually hold it in there as long as your finger's over the top of the straw. You let go and the water comes out. That is the same thing that is going on with this feeder. So the question now is, what do you put in the feeder? So what do I feed my bees? I've been feeding them a 1-to-1 mixture of sugar to water, which is also called a simple syrup or a light sugar syrup. In the early spring, when they're sort of desperate for food and really hungry, you can do a 2-to-1, 2 sugar to 1 water. But right now I'm doing 1-to-1, and I'm feeding my bees throughout the summer. Some people don't feed their bees over the summertime, but I am continuing to feed mine. My bees are brand new to the hive. When I put them in there, they had no infrastructure whatsoever, and they had no honey stores, no nectar, nothing. So not only were they foraging for all of their sustenance, all of the bees inside were just busy making comb, and I didn't want them to have to worry about, eating. So the food goes right on top. They're still building comb, so the food is just right over where they're working. All they have to do is go right up, take a drink, come back down, and keep building that comb. One other thing, the other great thing about this feeder is it's super cheap. This was, I think, about $5. I got this at Better Bee in upstate New York. And the other feeders, the trough feeders and stuff, they're a little more expensive, and I don't like the functionality of them. I bought 2 of these so I could have one up in the hive and then one in my kitchen. So when I go out to feed my bees, I can make all my syrup in the one that I have, go up there and just swap them out. So I always have one empty and one full. So here's the gear you need. I have a scale, I have just granulated sugar, and your bucket. The reason you need a scale is because you're mixing 1-to-1 by weight, not by volume. So it's weight, it's 1-to-1, and I do 5-to-5, so 5 pounds of sugar to 5 pounds of water. So get your scale, turn it on. Scales usually have a zeroing feature, so the bucket weighs something, but if you hit that button, it zeroes it out to 0. Take your sugar, and I'm going to measure out 5 pounds of sugar on the scale. Five pounds, which is actually a lot. It looks like a lot. Okay, so that's 5 pounds of sugar right there. Now a little pro tip, so next time you don't have to really get the scale out. You just have to get your sugar sort of flat. You can take your pen and just mark. You can see right there. That is my sugar line right there. So I know next time I'm going to fill up to that, and it's going to be roughly 5 pounds of sugar. Next up, you need 5 pounds of water. So for the water, all I'm using here is hot tap water. I just put it on full hot and fill it up. So I just left the sugar right on the scale. It's reading 5 pounds. And I'm going to add hot water right to the sugar till we get to 10 pounds on the scale. I'm at 9 pounds, 3 ounces, but watch, and the water is all the way to the tip top, but watch this. There's a lot of air in there from the sugar. It goes down. Needs a little more water. It's reading 9 pounds, 3 ounces. 10 pounds. So we have 5 pounds of sugar, 5 pounds of water, and it goes right up to this point on a 1 gallon bucket. And that point is pretty much halfway between the top 2 ridges, so I kind of know my bucket. And just stir it up. And I can feel all the sugar is dissolved now. There's no sugar dragging on the bottom of the bucket. Take your lid. Now what's going to happen here is I might have filled it a little high, and we may get a little syrup come out of the screen here. You got to make sure that snaps on. Okay. Sealed and ready to go. This is the magic part here. So the way the vacuum works is you have to kind of flip it all over at once. You can, if you just turn this, it will actually just pour out, as you can see here. But if you flip it completely upside down, and a vacuum forms inside the bottom, when the air that's in here gets to the other side, it's going to hold that syrup inside. First time I did it, it was like magic. Let's see if we can do this today. Quick flip. Okay. And that's it. You can shake it and some will come out. And also, if the bees just kind of lap that screen and with their little bee tongues, they can get the fluid out and it'll slowly come out. But it will just sit there magically in the hive. And that's, for me, for my bees, that's about a week's worth of food. Here's one more tip about the food that someone recommended to me. Instead of just, when you turn this upside down and you have to form the vacuum on the food, a little bit is going to slosh out. So do not tip this over onto your hive. You want to do it away from the hive so that you don't shoot that water out into your bees. Another tip someone said was do it far away from your hive. Sorry, I can't remember who told me that. But that way, when your sugar water lands on the ground, it's far away from your hive and it won't attract ants to your hive. And there's the rest of the syrup. I'm just going to put that back in. There you go. Thanks for watching.